Hello, students. In this lesson, you're going to learn about research articles, what's in them, and how to read them. To start with, when you first see a research article, ask yourself, what is the topic of the article? What do I already know about the topic? What is the source of the article? For example, if it's a research article, then it was probably published in a journal rather than a magazine or a newspaper. You'll notice that whoever wrote the article is a researcher, is someone who does research, probably at a university. So somewhere on the article, you will see the author's qualifications that usually tell you that the author works at a university. When you first see the article, at the very beginning, you'll notice there's an abstract. The abstract is a summary of the most important findings and the most important information in the article. You'll also notice if you look through the article, just sort of skim through it at first, you'll see that sometimes articles will have tables and graphs and pictures, some kinds of illustrations. That will help you get an idea of what this article is going to be about. You should also look through the article and see what the headings are and the subheadings. And then ask yourself, what information do I need to know from this article? How will I mark this information? Are you going to use a highlighter? Are you going to underline? It will be important that you take notes as you read so that you can go back and find information again. Research articles have a specific, clear structure. They always start out with an abstract, and then right after the abstract is an introduction. Even if the article doesn't say introduction at the beginning, everything that comes first in the body of the article is the introduction. It's the very first section of a research article. After the introduction, there will be the method. The method is what did the researcher do to perform their research. It could mean that they did an experiment. It could mean that they gave surveys to their subjects. It could mean that they gave questionnaires, or they did an observation, or they interviewed people. All of that information will be in the method. The section with the results will tell the data, the statistics, the percentages that the author has found in their research. Then the author will discuss what the data means, and then at the very end of the article will be a list of references that the author uses in the article. So first of all, let's look at the abstract. What is in an abstract? An abstract might have the hypothesis, or it might have the purpose of the article, or it might have the research question. Sometimes an abstract will have only one of those things, sometimes two out of those three things, sometimes all three. If you look over here at this abstract, it says the objective of the study was to evaluate the effect on road safety of sports utility vehicles compared to other passenger vehicle types. So here they put the purpose. The purpose is the objective. Abstracts will also talk about the subjects that were used in the research, and they'll give a short description of the procedure, the method that the researcher uses to do the research. And then towards the end of the abstract, the author usually states whether the hypothesis was confirmed or rejected, if there is a hypothesis, or just a general statement of the conclusions of the study. Looking at the introduction, what's included inside of the introduction is the problem that the research is trying to solve, and a review of the literature, which is basically talking about what other researchers have done regarding the same topic. So at first the author will say, here is a problem, and here's what other researchers have done in their research to address this problem. And then next, the author will talk about why their research, the article that you're reading, is so important. The author will justify why this research is important and why it's necessary, usually by pointing out what's missing in other people's research. The author will say, and so our research is going to do this to solve the problem. So that would be the author's justification for the present study. The author will probably bring up the hypothesis again right at the very end of the introduction. Or if there's not a hypothesis, then the author will talk again about the purpose of the study or the research question again. You can usually find this at the very end of the introduction section. After the introduction, generally you find the section on method. And in the method section, the author is going to talk about the place, another word could be setting, where the study took place, where it happened, the sample, which would be a number of subjects or participants or people in the population who were being studied, and then the method that the author used, that the researchers used to conduct the study. It might have been an experiment, it might have been a survey, a questionnaire, an observation, or an interview. You could put in the word interview. That could have happened. And then what kind of materials or equipment was used in the study, and a description of the steps that were followed to do the method, to do the procedure. After the method, then the author gives the results of the study. In this section, there will be a lot of numbers and statistics and percentages, and often there will be tables and graphs showing the statistics, showing the percentages. The author will also describe the results, giving a lot of percentages, and often the author will mention in this section whether or not their hypothesis was confirmed or rejected. But the author doesn't generally give a conclusion in the results section, not until you get to the next section, which is the discussion. Here is where the author will talk about the results by explaining what the results mean. They'll go back to the restatement of the hypothesis, saying whether or not it was confirmed or rejected. They'll explain what the statistics mean, what the findings mean. They'll compare the results of their study with other people's studies. They'll also talk about the limitations of the study, meaning things about the study that could have been done better or that should be done differently next time. They'll talk about the implications of their study and how it could solve problems in the world. They'll talk about the suggestions that they offer for other people doing research in the future. And somewhere in here will be their conclusion. Sometimes the conclusion is embedded in their statement about their hypothesis. Often it's embedded in the implications for the way that the problem could be solved in the world. And then the very last part of the research article is the references. All of the references that are listed at the very end are sources that the author referred to in the body of the text. So each time that the author brought up someone else's study, they put a citation inside the body of the text. And all of those sources are listed at the very end. Now we are done with this lesson on research articles, and you are ready to look at a real research article.